up, folks? Today's single card discussion again regarding Commander Masters and Lord of the Ring Dings. So, just so everyone knows, right now, for those of you new to the card world, you've never handled a Magic the Yu-Gi-Oh-ing, you don't know what's going on, remember, right now the single cards are very expensive for Commander Masters. I mean, when I say very expensive, I mean insanely expensive. Like, you go on TCG Player, sort by most expensive, and these etched versions of Fierce Guardian ships and some of these mythics and some of the textured, they are literally like $50 to $500 a card. Now, those prices are going to come down substantially, blah, 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 that's boring. But keep in mind, Lord of the Rings still hasn't had its final thing coming in the next couple months and everything. So the single card price, because a lot of people are messy. Rudy, see, I think this time's different, Rudy. And I'm like, okay. Please, tell me why this time's different. Why every other time was the same, but this time's different. Please, please tell me. And everyone's saying, look, Rudy, the Lord of the Rings, look at the single cards. You said they would drop 50-60% and stabilize. The Lord of the Rings single cards, we still got Orcish Bowmaster Rudy, Washerman. He's still like, $50 a card. I'm like, okay. Again, the prices can stay elevated, but until the final supply hits. Usually, on Masters products, all the supply comes rushing in at once, and historically, that's it. Again, we can always have exceptions. Wizards seems to just spin the wheel sometimes on what they want to do to us, seriously. But for Lord of the Rings, they did this initial big wave. Everybody was crazy about it a couple months ago. And now they haven't done a restock on draft and set yet. But it's supposed to come. Now when it comes to Masters product, historically, many months, 6 months, years can go by. They don't reprint and restock Masters products. Now that could change. We don't know. Behavior at Hasbro and Wizards has been extremely volatile. Very unpredictable. And again, that has made single card prices all over the place. But the point is, right now, I'm looking at TCG Player, and I'm looking at the single cards of these etched cards, Portal 3 Kingdom reprints, obviously Jeweled Lotus, some of the Fierce Guardianship, the kind of the big hitting rares, not just the mythics, and the etched versions that are different. Some, the Jeweled Lotus actually looks good and etched. And again, cards with like blues or purples on the artwork, like the Fierce, they tend to look really good in the etched. Some of the grays and blacks, because there's not a good kind of rainbow effect of colors, sometimes they look washed out, or they're very difficult to see the details on the artwork. That's always been an issue with etched cards unless there's a lot of good bright colors on them. So again, a lot of these etched cards that are $50 to $100 a card, I don't know. I already said in the video we were talking about Jeweled Lotus. The textured Lotus for your pleasure is over $1,000. Just is blowing my mind. But last time I said Jeweled Lotus is overpriced, everybody made fun of me. Price never came down. Wizards made it tough to pull and said, "Ha, gotcha," and they got me. But right now I'm looking at all the other cards. These etched foil cards are $50 to $100 a piece for some of these cards, and I understand some of them are going to be really tough to get. They're pretty much going to be collector box or bust to find some of these. I know the textures are exclusive to the collector box. I understand the set boxes are so expensive. Even if you hit one, you're probably still going to lose money on the set box. Again, if you haven't gotten my gist yet, use extreme caution with the set boxes. I've been talking about this for 2 months, 3 months now, and I've been saying the set boxes. And I know people, Rudy, they got more packs, and the collector's more. But still, the collector has different avenues and different types of pull rates, and just be careful with those set boxes, man. Like I said, stores cost at like $320 for a store. That's for an LGS who has to pay people, has overhead, expenses, insurance, utilities, bills, insane amounts of overhead. Trust me. I think my utility bill alone, with 4 locations, including the warehouse is 1 location, I think my utility bill alone is like $1,500, $2,000 a month. Like, it's, so again, when you look at, if a store has to pay $320 for a set box, those boxes to the public, stores can't even make money on them. They're already on TCG Player for what? Were they down to $350? So they're already selling at a loss. Again, those things scare me because they're so high up. If those things drop 20-30%, we're talking about going, like, if you have a 20%, like, I think we could easily see 10-20% swings at release. Now again, they may hold up. We may have 1 or 2 stores dump and then do the old rubber band thing. We have no idea. And then, of course, There's always a thing where some of these new cards or different versions or cards, something spikes and then all of a sudden everybody changes. It's so difficult to predict the swings of these things. But like I said, honestly, again, you got collector boxes around $200 on the open market. Those set boxes around mid 300s now. They've been coming down some. I could easily see those set boxes going from 350 to probably like 250 or something. I could see a lot of turbulence in the sets. I do believe on a percentage scale, I think the commander decks and the collectors, I've said this for 3 months now, are probably the best risk-reward ratio. But so far, again, it's going to come down to how much these single cards are going to hold up financially. If a lot of these single cards, like some of you keep messaging me saying, Rudy, you say 50, 60% decline. You're trying to be anti-hype and push down the price. No, it's just, I'm an old fart. I've done so many Magic releases at this point in time, I can't even count. I've probably been involved in like 80, 70, a million. I don't know how many Magic sets there are. It's been so many Magic releases. 8 years with you guys, 7 years Patreon. I've been doing this so long at this point. One of the things I've learned is you have to expect the unexpected. And some of these cards are going to hold up better than we expect. And others that you think are going to hold up good are going to completely collapse from $80 a card to $10. And then some of these other ones may go from 80 to just 60 or 50 and stabilize. But that is the market. It's going to determine, like I said, the biggest eye-opener I had was in 2020. When we had that Commander Legends original draft boxes, okay, and Jeweled Lotus was first invented, and I was talking about that was the Rudy infamous line, $20 at max. That was my infamous line, and I look back at that, and I still think that's about right. But then when I realized Wizards went out of their way to make the pull rates insane, and then I started to realize, wait a minute, why is this extended art foil like super expensive? And then we started doing those collector box openings in 2020. And I was like, holy crap, dude, it's like impossible to pull this thing. And that's when I realized, well, other forces were at work with the single card pricing. And I have a feeling we're going to see something very similar with Commander Masters, especially some of the Super Chase cards that may be exclusive only to collector boxes. A couple of them may be really tough to pull. Because now, as the filming of this, try to wait to the end of the week here, Wednesday, Thursday, as we approach the kind of the technical pre-release weekend, but there's not really a pre-release on this product. Is there a pre-release? I don't think there's pre-release packs. There's technically not a pre-release. Anyways, I'm starting to see, of course, some of the people starting to rip these things early online. And I'm looking at some of these pull rates, and I'm like, bro, that Jeweled Lotus, some of those Mythics, some of those Eldrazi's, some of the pull rates of these things are really tough to get. Like, you're not going to be cracking collector boxes and getting a Jeweled Lotus in every box. Because I even had a conversation with a patron about that about a week ago. It's like, Rudy, bro, if a textured Jeweled Lotus is $1,000, Rudy, like, if you're buying collector boxes for $200, even if you're not a Rudy patron because he's an evil scumbag, he takes your ex and does this thing to Taco Bell, even if you're paying $200 a box market, not paying Rudy prices, which is like, you buy in bulk, buy 5, get 1 free. But, even if you're paying regular prices, and people are saying, Rudy, that textured Lotus is $1,000. $1,000 pays for like 5 boxes at $200 a piece. Okay, I understand the simple Timmy math of 1 + 1 = 11, but I assure you, there is no way on this planet of being a meat popsicle, Pluto doesn't exist, Tesla in space, and of course, inflation and the world we're in with Papa Hasbro. There is no way Hasbro and Wizards of the Philip Morris West Coast and Dr. Cynthia are going to allow $1,000 textured Lotuses in every case. It is just not going to happen. In my opinion, some of the rumors right now from people watching other box openings, it's starting to look like you get 1 textured card per case, and I believe I'm getting confirmation it is 6 collector boxes per case, not 8, like the last collector box from Double Masters. So, I don't know if that changes the dynamic. Maybe it does, because if you get a textured per 6 boxes versus 8, a little easier pull rate. But if that's the case, and there's a pool of textured cards of what? How many textured cards are there? 5, 6, 8? That's, 1 Lotus every 5 to 10 cases. In a case, that's 1 textured $1,000 Lotus. If each case is 6 boxes, and you got to do 7 case openings, that's 35 boxes to hit that $1,000 card. And that's based on law of large numbers and removing volatility and luck. So, Yeah, if you open 40 boxes, and every 40 collector boxes you open, you get a $1,000 card that essentially pays for 5 of the 40 boxes. So that would pay for about 10 to 12% of your product from that one pull on a large scale. I had a conversation with another store that was like, Rudy, I'm not selling these things for $200 a box. It's already stupid. After shipping and fees on TCG Player, I'm netting $170. I'm already taking a loss. Store, I paid $180 a box as a store. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay. If you open them on a large scale and you do hit the correct amount of textured cards and you do sell them within the first 30 days, I understand the perspective because, again, chances are we're going to have a couple other single cards that are going to be mispriced and they're going to flare up in price. We had that happen with Lord of the Rings. We had certain rares, certain uncommons, certain mythics that started out, $5, $10 that went to maybe 20 or went to 40 or 50, and that does happen in all releases. All the way back in like Dragons of Tarkir, Core 2012, Core 2013, when I was doing my 240, 360, 480, or 600 mass box openings for draft cases. And I remember we would always sell the expensive card that everybody knows, but a lot of the mythics that we thought were kind of decent, and this was when Rudy actually knew how to play Magic and I deleted that memory, and I actually paid attention to all the cards in more detail. I remember we would look at them and say, dude, this mythic seems kind of decent. This rare seems really good. Why is this rare, 80 cents? Why is this mythic $1.50? This is actually, it seems kind of interesting. Like you could do some shenanigans, or if another card or somebody cracks some combo with something, this seems like it could have some potential. And I remember those conversations. So we would sit on like a block of 100 of those rares or 100 of those mythics, and we'd put those aside, and we would sell the ones that we know. Oh, Jewel Lotus 1,000 textured. Let's just lock in that 1,000, bring back tons of capital. So that's an interesting dynamic with these collector boxes. Like I said, I'm still very nervous about these set boxes and how this is going to unfold, especially because we're in the summer. Remember, folks, the summer of CCGs, usually summers are the weakest period per year. That's a different video conversation, but a lot of people always ask me about that. They say, okay, Rudy, is it true that there's seasonality to Magic the Gathering specifically? And yes, there is some truth to that. There is some actual seasonality historically in kind of the end of summer right now, before kind of school, college, kind of we leave the summer into the fall. It is kind of a down, softer market. Once we go into usually September, October, November, usually the market's very healthy and stronger. Usually when you hit the end of November and December, you have another downtick weakness in the market because stores liquidate for holidays, people spending, and then of course we go through everybody who wants to launch their own Black Friday, come to my store, I'm taking the biggest loss, I'm selling at the biggest. You always tend to have a group of stores that fight for who can sell the most product without making money. Welcome to the card world, folks. And so we have another downtick there. Then usually when you roll from January back into January, usually you go through the January, February, March where it's stable. That March, April tax return time, you start getting the uptick for the March, April, May. And then you have the softer summer of June, July, August. So I know it's cheesy. And I know in the big scale of life and markets, with the stock markets, debt markets, bond markets, real estate markets, crypto markets, collectible markets, Rudy's hair market, it's cheesy to say there's cycles, but there really is. But do you want to base your life in waiting months and timing seasonality? That's where it gets a little complicated, everybody. But overall, that's what I see. So to sum up this video, yes, Commander Master singles, a lot of these etched cards that are $50 to $100 a piece, these textured cards that are hundreds of dollars, up to $1,000 for Jewel Lotus. Yes, I think these prices, again, are overly inflated and elevated, as with every new release of Magic. But there will be a most likely scenario where some of them surprise us and don't collapse to zero, and some can actually go up higher because people don't expect it. That does happen with every release. Again, final reminder too, later this year we do have Lord of the Rings draft and set being reprinted and restocked, or it's probably already reprinted, it's just sitting, because they don't want any interference with Commander Master. So later on this year that will be available, so I do expect more downward pressure on the Lord of the Rings products. As far as kind of final comment here, I wouldn't be surprised, because see, I know I keep trying to end the video, but hold on, I gotta say this, because this is an interesting set where everyone's saying nobody should buy any sealed product, and everybody should just buy the single cards you want. And if you ever stop to think that if everybody did that, how expensive the single cards would be, you would have this strange imbalance because you would distort the sealed versus single card market. And I'm going to have another video on this because there is a teeter-totter where if everybody buys the singles and the sealed product doesn't get bought, the sealed will drop, but the single cards won't. And then literally stores just stop selling the sealed boxes because they're tanking, and they just open them all and just sell singles and stock it. You kind of have this teeter-totter. It's a really weird scenario, and there is a tipping point for all of that conversation. So that's all I have today. Obviously, when this weekend comes up with the patrons and I'm going to run my collector box sale and everything, I will report to you all, because obviously for every Friday we're doing the massive Alpha Investments collector box launch, and then of course Sunday we're doing the massive, well, not as massive. The commander decks were tough to get. There's just not. They didn't make very many commander decks, but we'll be doing that. I'm mostly curious right now about the collector boxes, especially at unbelievable Rudy, best price in the world, giggity kind of pricing. It kind of makes you wonder, okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't run out. So I went all in, overdid everything to make sure the patrons had the opportunity to have the best price in the country and I wouldn't run out in a couple minutes. That was the concept of what I was designing building up to this. Now, with that being said, I'm very curious because a lot of the patrons were just want a box or two and say, Rudy, I just want to open a box, keep it. Other patrons are like, no, give me I want the cheapest price. Rudy, if I buy 40 boxes, that's an uneven number. I'm not going to sell quantities of 40, I'd be paying the butt. I want literally $3,000 off. I want literally buy 35. I want to buy 32 boxes and I want to get 8 boxes free. Well, I mean, we kind of did something similar to that coming up here tonight, and I'm very excited and very proud of the pricing in the last 2 months worth of work, moving money and setting this up just for you all, my supporters and everything. I'm very, very grateful for you all, and I'm really hoping you guys appreciate that. And obviously we're going to do some box openings too. So we want to definitely do the full Monty cases, because there's only 4 packs for collector box. We want to do a full 6 or 8 boxes per video, so we can do 20, 30 packs. We want to get a good scale of everything too, so it'll be a lot of fun. So, anyways, we'll keep tabs on everything. Just want to update everybody on the Lord of the Rings thing reprint coming later this year. Sit tight, Buttercups. I screwed that up. Buckle up, Buttercups, and of course, we're getting ready to the Commander Masters collectors coming up and everything. It should be a ton of fun, and I'm very interested to report back on how much I sell. I don't expect to sell out because I plan on keeping a pallet or 2 for myself. But of course, I want to see kind of how everyone unfolds. In other words, are people really just thinking everything's going to zero? Or if you just offer it at insane pricing that I can't even legally say on there, do people just say, well, shit, at that price, fuck, I'll buy a couple boxes? That's what I'm curious. And we're going to find that out, and we're going to test it this weekend. Have a beautiful day. I'm hungry.